All right, the three of us had the wonderful opportunity to see a sizable chunk of GTA 5 played in front of us, various parts of the game with all three of the characters and how they interrelate. We're not going to talk about it, not to make you feel jealous, but to enlighten you, because we have things to enlighten you with.
We saw you didn't.
I think the first thing is the world. It's very much LA, but it's a GTA LA, and it's really...
It's huge.
It's massive. We started our demo playing as Franklin, and he was sort of parachuting from the sky down into the forest, and then like going all throughout the city, and it was just beautiful. Like
there's coyotes running around,
the
bobcats.
Details, tons of animals.
Yeah,
you can see elements of Red Dead Redemption where they did have, if not a completely developed ecosystem, you know, they were starting to play around with that. Yeah, and you started to see the animals, people fishing.
I would go so far as to say that this actually looks more like Red Dead Redemption than it does like previous Grand Theft Auto games. This looks like, if you took kind of the barren Wild West of Red Dead and kind of fast forward to the future, and there's that same amount of stuff going on. I mean, there's a lot more going on.
It's a very mythic-looking representation of Southern California. Yeah. And I think that since Red Dead, they seem to be trafficking so much in sort of American mythologies, and that this really works, even though it's a modern setting.
Yeah, and it seems like they're also focusing not just like on land, but also in the sky and underwater. They showed us the underwater portion where Trevor went scuba diving and just like swam around this awesome shipwreck.
They mentioned that, you know how parachutes were in planes and helicopters before. Now every boat has scuba gear in it, so you can just hop right out and go swimming. What I thought was really cool is that sharks will attack you. I mean, there have been sharks in previous Grand Theft Auto games that never really did anything. And there's also other scuba divers down there. So it's really, one of my biggest concerns.
It's a populated underwater world.
Yes, there are things happening around you. I think it's really important to note this because I was afraid going into this that my memories of San Andreas are crashing my jetpack out in the middle of nowhere and being like, oh,
I have to get back home.
I have to wait for a tractor to drive by and a carjack it. But this is like, there are things going on wherever you are. There's a lot happening. And then at the same time, you can swap characters.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
One last thing I want to say about the size of the game is what they said is it's an incredibly large game that gets even bigger. It almost doubles when you count the amount of underwater space. They didn't go into too much detail about how that's going to integrate into sort of the narrative gameplay. But if you have that much real estate underwater, I think it's safe to say it will somehow be playing a major role in the course of the game.
I could imagine so. I mean, the thing that jumped out at me as being similar to Red Dead is that you've got you've got little kind of beacons on your mini map of sort of side quests, side missions, as opposed to having somebody just having to go to a location for an activity or having somebody call you up on your cell phone. There's somebody on your map. You're like, oh, I'm going to see who that person is. What's that question mark? What's going on?
And in this case, it looked like some young ingenue actress who was trying to hide from the paparazzi. And it was neat because it turned into a chase that you're used to in GTA with people shooting at you, but now it's actually cameras. And I thought it was a really kind of fun twist on something that's so expected and not that surprising in a GTA game.
Yeah, if that seems over the top to you and too cartoonishly video gamey, that's a thing that happens. Just ask Lindsay Lohan about that.
Totally. I feel like this sort of escapes the staleness that I personally experience in a lot of open world games by allowing you to switch between characters. So if you do get bored with something that's happening, there's always something interesting going on elsewhere. And it's not like you switch to another character and you're just like come up mid-sentence or something. Like there's clearly a break there, but what happens after that I think is far more interesting.
To explain it to them, I mean, it's really neat that when you're out of mission, all three of the characters are functioning. Like the AI, they're going to go about and doing their routine, and when you feel like swapping, you just land, and the camera pulls out, moves over the map to where Michael or Trevor is, and goes right down into what they're doing, which could be, in the case of Trevor, we saw was somewhat unsavory. He looked like he was in his underwear on a beach.
I think that's going to be.
And there are dead bodies all around him.
I think that was pretty good. I think he's going to be waking up in his underwear a lot. I think that Trevor's going to be the one you're going to go to see what he's doing.
And what I didn't realize actually until we saw the game is that each of the characters sort of has their own specialty. Like some are better with melee combat and stuff, but each of them also has like a special skill. So Michael, which is the funniest one because I keep comparing him in my head to Max Payne, he can slow down time during gunfights and stuff.
Because of his access to weapons.
Exactly. Franklin can slow down time when he's driving, so he can take those like really sharp turns. And then Trevor has this, I guess, kind of like a fury ability.
Yeah, his is the most nebulous.
It's Berserker. He's going to double his damage What's going to trigger that, I don't know. But, and he'll take half damage at that.
He does PCP.
Yeah.
He's the guy on Cops who strips down to his underwear and breaks a picket fence,
So, and there's other stats that you can improve. It's using the Skyrim model where by doing it, you're going to see it improve over time.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like some characters are more adept at certain skills than others. But it's interesting, though, because we're talking about how they're out of mission. But we also saw a mission with all three of them. And I think that it might be lost to some people with those trailers out there that looks like there's three parallel narratives. No, these three guys are working together. And in the mission, which was a heist completely modeled, which was so awesome, after the the opening sequence of Michael Mann's Heat, where you're blocking the street with trucks, and there's an armored truck that comes in, you blow the doors, you steal the money,
the guy bleeds out the ears.
But in the course of it, sometimes it forces you to move between the characters, but once all the combat started, you're then doing it dynamically, and it positions characters at different places on the battlefield. So yes, it opens up strategy, but it also made it a far more exciting action combat, because some people complain about the sameness of GTA's combat, and suddenly when you have a guy up here with explosive missiles, and then you have two guys on the ground in different positions with their machine guns, it really took on a sense of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and each of them has a different weapon specialty. So if you get bored of melee combat,
I mean, at the same time, with any kind of linear mission, it's going to add basically infinite replayability, because you can never be all three characters at once. You're always going to have to make one choice, and you can always swap back and forth and take an entirely different approach. I think the moment it clicked for me is that we had Trevor up on kind of lookout, and he fired a rocket at some police cars, and then at that point, after firing the rocket, they switched down to, I guess, Michael, and the rocket just crashed. Like, it was that fast. It was that instantaneous.
It's a fascinating way to sort of take a step back from the combat. When you're playing these third-person games, you're doing it through the one character, and you're seeing it through the one lens. And now you're taking more of a holistic view of combat. It's almost like you become the action movie director as you're moving around. And given that they now have a soundtrack that plays underneath the action, not just when you have a radio on in the car, it just ties it all together into something that I wasn't expecting from a GTA game, and really kind of invigorated, reinvigorated, I think is the word, what they're so known for.
Yeah, and I mean, we've known that heists are going to be a huge part of the game. The heist that we did that just had those three characters in it, I think was kind of a smaller version of some of the bigger heists that you do later in the game.
And you organize it yourself.
Yeah, and you organize it yourself with, from what I understand, very little hand-holding. Like, if you need to get an armored car or something, like, you have to figure that out for yourself. You have to hire outside crew, and the more heists you have to buy masks, all kinds of things that you don't usually have to think about when you're playing a game, because they sort of tell you what you're supposed to do.
My love of heist movies, I mean, I had no idea it was that dynamic, and that I'm like, okay, good, because I shouldn't do this in real life. And I've always wanted to play around with that type of format. It really hits a sweet spot. I think the final thing to talk about is, yes, you have the three characters, but they also are together in the narrative, and how that really opens up the gameplay, because you have Michael, who's rich. That's what you want, people from different walks of life that are somehow drawn together by circumstance.
Right.
It opens up other dramatic possibilities. You kind of knew where Niko Bellic's story was going to go, because it's such a classic trope. This one, it's that sense of surprise. Where
it also doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel stretched. Like when Nico's driving around with like a Rastafarian guy or whatever, like that seemed always a little bit kind of odd to me. This seems a lot more organic, and you're going to have character types who actually make sense to be hanging out with that particular character.
And they also made a point that for the side missions for all three of the characters, they aren't kind of those forced side missions. They're very organically integrated into what their behavior would be like and what their characterization.
It seems like they're giving a lot of freedom to players without giving too much freedom. Like, they're still telling their story, but they're letting you kind of tell it your way.
And I think they're hiding that sense of grind underneath.
Yeah.
You're not going to notice the grind that I did feel with dating and stuff like that.
Something that really, really stuck out to me as being very cool is that obviously people who love San Andreas love the amount of customization you can have. You can go eat like a whole bunch of food and get really fat. You can go work out at the gym. I don't think that's there anymore. You can change outfits, obviously, but what I loved is that you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna be Michael in like a purple thong and run around with with pink hair. It's gonna be different outfits, different haircuts, and customization, but it's styles that those characters would have.
It's like appropriate.
They're trying to maintain the integrity of the world and the tone of the game. And yes, I think you can do the silly stuff in some other games out there. I kind of like the idea that Grand Theft Auto is going to try to really posit itself in a more realistic world.
But I mean, there is the customization. You can
customize cars,
modify cars, as well as weapons. You can trick out weapons and do all that kind of customization. So, I'm feeling pretty good about this game.
I have to say, if there's anything, it just the amount of content I would want to indulge in sounds so grand, is almost kind of terrifying. You know, the time suck that Grand Theft Auto 5 is probably going to be asking of me, and I'll be happy to give it to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our discussion. I hope it was illuminating to you. Yeah, there's something pretty interesting going on with this game, and even for those who have wondered if this was yet just another Grand Theft Auto, I always have to remember that Rockstar tends to cause an event with all of these big releases, and I have every expectation they're going to be doing it with this.
You know what really sucks is when you're watching your friend play Grand Theft Auto and you're waiting to be your turn. It's even worse when you have to wait several months to play it.
So we'll just stay in this room and wait it out. When it comes out, was it the 17th of September? 17th. All right.